This happened a few months ago. I'm Clara, 34, a freelance graphic designer. I had just moved to a new town, and I thought the old park near my house would be a nice place for evening walks. At first, they felt calming. It was peaceful, but then things changed. The paths were overgrown, tangled with weeds. The tall trees blocked the moonlight. The streetlights flickered, barely lighting my way. I started to feel uneasy walking there at night. One evening, I strolled past a massive old oak tree. I thought I saw something up high in its branches. It swayed slightly, but I convinced myself it was just a doll or trash. It didn't seem real. The next evening, I returned. I glanced at that oak tree again. I was sure I saw a figure, a woman with long hair hanging down. It looked different than before. I tried to convince myself it was my imagination. I told myself I was just alone. But then I started to hear things. At first it was faint, like whispers in the wind. Then I heard laughter. It sent a chill through me. I hurried along the path, looking back at the tree. No one was there, but I felt eyes on me, watching me. I wanted to forget about it, but I couldn't. Each evening after, I found myself looking up at that tree. I walked slower, focusing on the branches. Every time I got close, she would vanish. It felt like a game, but it also scared me. I tried to shake it off, but the unease only grew. One night, everything felt still. I walked, my heart racing. I heard murmurs again. They didn't make sense. It felt like they were calling for me. I wanted to run, but something kept me there. I stared at the oak tree, straining my eyes against the dark. Then she appeared again. I knew it was her this time. I couldn't believe it. She looked down at me, her face half hidden in shadows. I opened my mouth to say something, but no words came. I felt frozen, trapped in my own fear. Then she tilted her head slightly and smiled before disappearing into thin air. I stepped back, breathless, trying to process what just happened. Was she real? Was it all in my head? I stumbled, my heart pounding. The air felt thick, heavy with that strange presence. I didn't understand it. Then I heard her whisper again, "Stay with me." I turned around in panic. The park was empty, completely silent. I looked around, but there was no one there. It was just me and the trees. But the mystery of her lingered. I couldn't shake the feeling she wanted something from me. It felt like she wanted me to join her in that old tree. As I walked away, my heart raced, and doubt started to creep in. Maybe I was losing my grip on reality. The old park felt more frightening than before. I couldn't shake the idea of the woman in the tree. She had taken root in my mind, and I felt trapped under her spell. The days that followed were filled with an unsettling mix of fear and curiosity. I couldn't shake off the image of the woman in the tree. Every evening, as twilight descended, the park called to me. I found myself standing at the edge of the path, between the known safety of my home and the mysterious pull of the trees. I forced myself to walk through the park each night, even as I fought down the rising dread. I wanted answers. I needed to understand what was happening. Still, every time I reached the oak tree, it was the same. The whispers came, growing louder, more insistent. "Stay with me." On the fifth night since that first encounter, I decided to come prepared. I grabbed my phone, hoping the light would ward off any darkness pressing in on me. As I stepped into the park, the air felt different. It was thick, almost charged, and the wind twisted erratically through the branches above. I took a deep breath and approached the oak tree. Tonight, I felt determined. I pointed my phone's flashlight at the gnarled bark and shifted my gaze upward. My heart thudded in my chest, but I refused to back down. That's when I saw something glimmering in the crook of the tree. I squinted, stepping closer. It was small and metallic, a child's locket dangling from a low branch. Curiosity overcame fear, and I reached up to grab it. As my fingers brushed against the cold metal, a chill wrapped around me. I felt a rush of wind, and the whispers escalated, swirling around me in a cacophony. "Stay with me." I dropped the locket, and it thudded against the ground. I stumbled back, panic rising in my throat. Then I heard a rustle above. I looked up just in time to see her. The woman was there again, peering down at me with that haunting smile. Her eyes locked onto mine, and I felt a pull, as if an invisible string connected us. I couldn't look away. My breathing quickened. "What do you want?" The words came out as a strangled whisper. She tilted her head, and her expression shifted. It wasn't just a smile. It felt sinister. Suddenly, the ground beneath me shifted. I lost my footing, and I fell backward, landing hard against the damp grass. My heart raced. I scrambled to get up, pushing myself off the ground. The night around me was dark and oppressing. I realized the whispers had turned into frantic shouts. "Stay with me! Stay with me!" They pierced through the silence like a siren. I turned and ran. I raced down the path, the sound of my own footsteps echoing in my ears. As I neared the park entrance, I dared to glance back. The woman still hovered in the branches, watching me, her fingers reaching out as though inviting me to stay. The moment I crossed the threshold out of the park, things fell silent. The whispers faded into the night, replaced by my hammering heart. I leaned against a lamppost, gasping for breath. But that locket lingered in my mind. There was something about it, something that connected me to her. I needed to go back. I needed to know. And I felt an undeniable pull to return, to understand the mystery that kept haunting me. But what if next time I wasn't strong enough to resist? I couldn't shake the feeling that I needed to go back that very night. The locket weighed heavily on my mind, and I couldn't ignore the pull it had on me. With trembling hands, I grabbed a jacket and headed out. The streets were quiet, and the shadows danced under the pale glow of the streetlights. As I walked, doubt crept in. What would I do if I saw her again? Or worse, what if I couldn't resist her call? But the need for answers propelled me forward, each step toward the park reverberating with urgency. When I arrived, the atmosphere felt charged once more, but now it was laced with a tinge of anticipation. The oak tree loomed in front of me, darker than before, its branches swaying as if beckoning me closer. "Stay with me." The whispers began to rise again, but this time I tried to push them away. I focused on the ground, afraid to look up. As I approached the tree, the beam of my phone lit up the base, but the light flickered, dimming as if the darkness was swallowing it. I felt a wave of cold wash over me, and dread coiled in my stomach. I had to find that locket. Maybe it held some clue. Kneeling down, I searched the grass. My fingers brushed against something cool and metallic. I picked it up and felt a rush of recognition. It was the locket. But before I could fully grasp it, the whispers escalated again, swirling like a storm around me. I clutched the locket tightly, the metal digging into my palm. As I looked up, the woman appeared again, her face now more clearly defined in the moonlight. Her eyes glowed with an intensity that sent a shiver down my spine. She pointed towards the locket, her expression a mix of urgency and something darker. "Open it," she urged. The voice was softer now, but no less compelling. "What do you want?" I shouted, panic rising in my throat. "Why are you doing this?" Her smile faded, replaced with a deep sadness that twisted my insides. "You need to see. You must understand." Despite my fear, I felt compelled to obey. With shaking hands, I opened the locket. Inside, a tiny photograph rested, an image of a girl no older than 10. The girl's bright smile made my heart ache with familiarity, yet I didn't recognize her. "What does this mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Suddenly, the ground shook beneath me. I stumbled and then froze, watching as the shadows around me twisted and morphed. They began to swirl, forming shapes that felt alive. I glanced up, and the woman's expression shifted once more, her eyes narrowing, as if she were preparing for something. Then everything went dark. I felt an unbearable weight pressing down around me. My throat constricted, and I couldn't breathe. A cold grip of fear engulfed my senses, and I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips. Through the darkness, I heard her voice, desperate and far away. "Stay with me!" And then, just as quickly as it started, the weight lifted, and I was alone again, gasping for breath. The park was empty. I was back by the oak tree, clinging to the locket as confusion swirled around me. What had just happened? What did I need to understand? I had so many questions, but one thing was certain. I was tied to this mystery in a way that surpassed fear. I needed to learn more, even if it meant confronting what lay beyond the shadows. I stumbled back from the oak tree, the locket still clutched tightly in my hand. The chill of the night wrapped around me like a cloak, and my heart raced as I tried to process what had just happened. I had to get out of the park and away from the shadows that felt like they were closing in on me. But as I turned to leave, I noticed something on the ground. At first, I thought it was just a patch of darker grass, but as I bent down, I realized it was a small path leading deeper into the woods. It wasn't there before. I hesitated, my instincts screaming at me to turn back. But the need for answers pushed me forward, the locket pulsing in my palm as I followed the path. The trees loomed overhead, blocking out most of the moonlight. Shadows flitted beneath the branches, and each rustle of leaves made my palms sweat. The path twisted and turned, leading me away from the safety of the park. I couldn't tell how far I had gone when I spotted something glimmering faintly in the distance. My heart skipped a beat. It was another locket, identical to the one I had found. Curiosity mingled with fear as I approached it. I picked it up carefully, examining the intricate design. When I opened it, my breath hitched again. Inside was another photograph. This one showed the same girl from my locket, but now she wore a different expression, one that was solemn and almost mournful. "How is this possible?" I whispered, pondering how these lockets were connected. Was I meant to find both? Then came a sudden rustling behind me. I spun around, heart pounding. The woods stretched infinitely, dark and suffocating. Is someone there? My voice was shaky and thin as it sliced through the eerie silence. Silence. But then I felt it, the unmistakable presence of someone watching me. I could see vague shapes moving in the shadows, just out of my line of sight. The cool night air felt heavy, thick with expectancy. "Stay with me," echoed faintly once more, wrapping around me like twisted vines. I blinked, the sense of dread unfurling in my chest. "What do you want from me?" I demanded, my voice growing louder, desperate for a response. But the only reply was the eerie echo of my own words. As I took a step back, I noticed the path seemed to curve off to the right, leading further into the dark. The pull of the locket brought me to a choice: confront whatever darkness awaited me, or run away, leaving the mystery unsolved. In that moment, I decided, I needed to confront the shadow. Cradling both lockets, I steeled myself and stepped forward into the unknown. Then I heard it, a low whisper layered with sadness. "You have to find her." It sent a chill through my veins. "Find who?" I shouted back into the dark, but the only answer was silence. I took a deep breath and pressed on, feeling the weight of both lockets now as they guided me closer to whatever truth lay ahead. The path continued to twist and turn, leading me deeper into the woods. The shadows morphed as I walked, more pronounced and looming. I could feel every heartbeat echoing in my ears. The chill seemed to cling to my skin, making me acutely aware of how alone I really was. Suddenly, I heard a soft rustling, not from the leaves, but from the direction ahead. My breath caught in my throat. I thought about turning back, but my feet betrayed me, drawn deeper by the relentless pull of the lockets. Each step felt like a step into the unknown. That's when I saw her, a figure standing at the base of a massive tree. The way she was positioned reminded me of the girl in the lockets, but there was something unsettling about her. Her hair flowed like a dark waterfall down her back, and she wore a long white dress that glowed even in the dim light. "Are you lost?" she asked, her voice soft yet carrying an undercurrent of urgency that sent shivers up my spine. I took a cautious step closer. "Who are you?" I managed to ask, my voice barely breaking through the thick air. "I've been waiting," she replied, her eyes locking onto mine. There was a familiarity about her, but I couldn't place it. "You have the lockets. You have to listen." My chest tightened. "Listen to what?" "About the girl," she whispered, glancing backward toward the tree, as if fearing it might reveal secrets of its own. "She needs you to find her. You must remember." There was a tear in her eye, glistening under the meager light. Remember what? I felt a strange connection to her, but also an overwhelming dread. Everything. The words dripped with weight. Her knees seemed to shake, as if the ground itself trembled beneath her. "You need to understand before it's too late. The woods are changing. They don't like intruders." "Then I shouldn't be here," I said, suddenly feeling like a trespasser in a world that was never mine. "Yes, but it's too late for that now." Her gaze pierced through me, and the shadows around her deepened. "You have the locket. It's our only hope." Before I could process her words, the air turned thick, almost tangible, and the branches above shook violently. I stumbled backward, the locket slipping through my fingers. They hit the ground in a hollow thud. "What have you done?" the woman shrieked, her demeanor shifting from pleading to fierce. I fumbled, panic racing through my veins as I reached for the lockets. The earth trembled again, and the trees seemed to close in around us. "I need to get out of here," I shouted, but her eyes held mine, locking me in place. "Find her, or we will all be trapped," she yelled, desperation echoing through the woods. Before I could respond, the shadows erupted around me, swirling like a dark storm. I could barely see her face anymore. Then, just as suddenly as it began, it all went quiet. I was alone, standing in the darkness. Fear clawed at my insides, but I couldn't run. I felt the weight of the lockets, now a crucial part of this strange unfolding. I had to decide. Would I brave whatever lay ahead to find the girl? And, more importantly, could I confront the truth of who she was? That's when I spotted movement from the corner of my eye. A figure emerged from the shadows, closer this time, and all I could do was hold my breath. The figure stepped into the light, and I squinted, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. It was a boy, no older than me, with tousled hair and a scared expression. His eyes darted around, wide and frantic, as if he were searching for something, or someone. "Who are you?" I whispered, unsure if I was ready for another encounter. He took a hesitant step forward, glancing back into the darkness, as if he feared it was alive. "You shouldn't be here. The woods are dangerous." His voice was shaky, but there was urgency in his tone. "I know that now," I replied, my heart racing again. I just met someone, a woman by the tree." "Did she tell you about the girl?" he asked suddenly, his expression changing from fear to determination. The way he spoke sent a chill down my spine. I nodded slowly. "She said I have to find her. But who is she? Who is the girl?" The boy hesitated, his eyes drifting to the ground, as if he wanted to. Finally, he met my gaze. Her name is Madeline. She's trapped, like many others. We thought she could be saved. Trapped? The word hung in the air. How? He took a shaky breath. The woods. They change people. They make them forget. He pointed to the lockets still scattered on the ground. You should pick them up. They'll help you remember. What do you mean? Remember what? I asked, feeling overwhelmed. They are pieces of her. Each one holds a memory. If you have them, you can find her. But the shadows don't want anyone to succeed. They'll try to stop you, he warned, glancing nervously around us, as if he sensed something lurking. I crouched and gathered the lockets quickly, cradling them in my hands. Every one felt cold, yet a flicker of warmth pulsed from them, and with it, a surge of memories flickered at the edges of my mind. Faces flashed by, laughter mingled with whispers, and a feeling of loss washed over me. Do you remember her? The boy asked, his hope mixing with anxiety. I don't know, I admitted, my pulse quickening. But there's something familiar about this place, and this girl. Then we need to hurry. We don't have much time, he urged, glancing back into the darkness. They'll come for us. Who will? I pressed, my voice rising in panic. The shadows. They'll get worse if we linger. I promised to protect Madeline, but I need your help now. His gaze locked onto mine, imploring. Will you help me find her? Before I could answer, the ground trembled again beneath our feet. The trees creaked and swayed, branches reaching down like skeletal fingers. Fear surged again, drowning my thoughts. Go, the boy shouted, pulling me in a direction through the thickening shadows. We have to move. They're coming. I didn't have time to think. I ran after him, the lockets clutched tightly in my hand, hoping they would guide me. As the darkness enveloped us, I had only one thought. I had to find Madeline before it was too late. The thick shadows closed in around us as we ran. I could feel the boy's grip on my arm, guiding me deeper into the woods. Panic gripped my chest. Each step felt heavier, as if the ground itself was reluctant to let us escape. Faster, he urged, glancing back. They're right behind us. I didn't dare look. Instead, I focused on my breathing and on keeping pace with him. The further we went, the more the air crackled with tension. It felt like something was watching us, lurking just outside the edges of my vision. Suddenly, he stopped, crouching low behind a thicket. I followed suit, heart racing. What is it? I whispered. Shh, he hissed, peering cautiously through the leaves. His eyes widened in horror. They're here. My breath halted as I strained to see what he was looking at. A mass of shifting shadows moved soundlessly through the trees. They twisted and turned, morphing into shapes that seemed to slither along the ground, hungry and intent. I couldn't make out clear forms, but I sensed their presence, dark and suffocating. This way, the boy murmured, pulling me deeper into the brush. I stumbled after him, trying not to make a sound. My heart drummed against my ribcage, and every snap of a twig felt like a thunderclap in the silence. As we crept away, I could hear whispers weaving around me, words I couldn't quite catch, but the tone was unmistakably malevolent. Is Madeline one of them? I whispered, the question slipping from my lips before I could hold it back. He shook his head, fear in his eyes. No, she's different. The shadows want to keep her. They want to keep anyone who comes here. But if we can gather the memory lockets, we can break the hold they have. I clenched the lockets in my hands, feeling their cool metal against my skin. What do we do next? First, we have to find the old stone altar. It's the key to calling her back. He looked back at the shadows again, which were moving closer, gathering strength. We don't have time. If we can reach it, maybe we can bring her out. I nodded, and we pressed on, adrenaline propelling us forward. Just then, the ground shook again, and a loud crack echoed through the trees. I spun around, seeing one of the shadows break away from the group, darting toward us like a steep gust of wind.
"Run!" the boy shouted, and we burst into motion again, sprinting through the chaotic undergrowth. Somehow, I felt drawn deeper into the woods, the lockets pulsating in my hand as if responding to an unspoken call. "This way!" I shouted, my instinct overpowering my fear, and I veered right. The boy followed, trusting my intuition. That's when I saw it. Farther ahead, faintly illuminated by what seemed to be a distant light, stood the stone altar. It looked ancient, overgrown with vines and mist. But I realized too late that we weren't alone. A shadow loomed ahead, larger than the others. Its eyes glinted ominously in the dim light. We had to face it now, with nowhere to hide. I felt my heart drop, a sense of despair washing over me. "Stay close," I yelled, and as we neared the altar, the figure moved to block our path. I could feel the weight of its gaze, and for a moment I was paralyzed. "Madeline," I whispered, hoping the name would spell something. But the shadow lunged, and I braced myself for impact. The world around me dimmed as darkness swallowed the scene. When I opened my eyes, the darkness had shifted. A dim blue light flickered in the distance, outlining the form of the altar. It stood stoically, but I felt an unsettling presence nearby. I wasn't sure how I had escaped the shadow's grasp, but I
wasn't going to waste the chance. "Are you okay?" the boy whispered fiercely, nudging my shoulder. I nodded slowly, shaking off the remnants of fear. "What happened?" "Something distracted it," he replied, glancing over his shoulder. "We need to keep moving." With renewed urgency, we approached the altar. Shadows twisted like lazy smoke around its base, whispering in a language I felt could gnaw at my sanity if I lingered too long. "What do we need to do?" I pressed. "Place the lockets on the altar," he instructed, inhaling sharply, "but keep your eyes on the shadows." His voice wavered as if he could sense something ominous lurking nearby. I carefully set the lockets down, each one clicking softly against the stone surface. I expected some kind of reaction, a burst of light or sound, but the air remained heavy and still. My breath caught in my throat. Was this it? Would we find Madeline? Would the shadows consume us? Suddenly, the whispers grew louder, almost like laughter, echoing from every direction. The shadows shifted uneasily, forming sharper shapes around us. I felt a rush of cold air and realized they were closing in. "Don't move," the boy shouted, gripping my arm tighter. I felt heat rising in my chest, an instinct urging me to act. "Whatever we're supposed to do, we have to do it fast," I cried. But just then, from the darkness, emerged a figure. She stepped into the light, her hair trailing like roots embedded in the ground. Her face, though pale, was strikingly beautiful, and her eyes sparkled with a mix of ancient knowledge and haunting sorrow. I felt drawn to her, as if she belonged with the shadows, but was defying them. "Help her," she urged, her voice a soft breeze that sliced through the whispering shadows. "But first, you need to face the truth of this place." "Madeline?" I stammered. "Is it you?" Her smile faltered. "In a way, yes, but you must understand. The shadows are not just here to frighten you. They are protecting what lies within. Only one who seeks the truth can command them." My heart raced. What truth? I exchanged a quick glance with the boy. He appeared as startled as I felt. "What do we need to do?" he asked, a tremor in his voice. "Face the fear you brought with you," she said. "Only then will you find what you lost." "Find what I lost?" I echoed, confusion swirling in my mind. Fear gripped me, but at the same moment I felt emboldened. "Everything's tied to the locket you kept hidden," she continued, gesturing to one on the altar. "It holds the key to releasing her." As I breathed in, the shadows surged toward us, their whispers becoming a cacophony. I felt a pull toward the locket, a memory flickering in my mind. The boy looked anxious, his eyes darting between me and the encroaching shadows.
Trust your heart, the strange woman urged, her voice barely. In that moment, I realized I couldn't let fear bind me. I had to confront whatever lay hidden within me. I reached for the locket, and as my fingers wrapped around its cool metal, I instantly felt warmth and clarity surge through me. That's when the shadows recoiled, revealing another figure struggling in their depths. I gasped. It was Madeline, her eyes wide and pleading. "Help me," she cried, and I knew what I needed to do, but time was running out. The shadows thrummed like 1,000 beating hearts, closing the space between us once more. We were on borrowed time, and I had to break this bond before it shattered. I gripped the locket tightly, the weight of it grounding me as the shadows crawled closer. "Madeline!" I called out, my voice edged with desperation. The chaotic whispers of the shadows spun around us like a raging storm, but I couldn't let their noise drown out my thoughts. I could see Madeline's fear. It was mirrored in my own heart. "What do I do?" I gasped, glancing at the boy beside me. He appeared at a loss, eyes wide and darting to the alien shapes looming around us. "Focus on her," he urged, his voice cutting through the disarray. "You have to show the shadows you're not afraid." Madeline's outstretched hands trembled, fingers brushing against the black mist that clung to her. She looked so fragile, her spirit almost dimming as sorrow seeped into her features. I could feel the weight of the moment. If I failed, she might vanish into the darkness forever. "What truth do I need to face?" I yelled, the urgency rising in my throat. The woman's words echoed in my mind, urging me forward. I realized then that the fear I carried wasn't just about losing Madeline. It was deeper, buried under layers of uncertainty and denial. I was afraid I wouldn't be enough, I confessed, feeling the locket pulse against my palm. That I'd fail to protect you. With that admission, something within me shifted. The shadows flickered, reacting as if my confession rattled their hold. "Keep going," the boy shouted, his hands clenched at his sides. "You can do this." I closed my eyes, forcing myself to remember. The whispers faded, replaced by the heartbeat of my own conviction. I am enough. I can fight for you, Madeline. I won't let fear control me anymore. With that determination, I opened my eyes and raised the locket high. A new energy sparked between us, pulsing with every beat of my heart. The shadows pulled back slightly, hesitating as if recognizing my shift. "Take my hand," I urged Madeline, extending my arm toward her. The shadows thinned just enough for her to reach me, and our fingers interlocked. I felt a surge of warmth wash over us, blurring the line between light and dark. "Don't let go," Madeline cried. "We need to break the hold." As we held on to each other, I concentrated on the power of the locket's warmth. The chaos around us began to morph, the laughter of the shadows fading. I felt the draw of something liberating, and I pushed it outward, willing the locket's energy to repel the darkness. Suddenly, the shadows writhed violently, as if caught in a storm. They shrieked, a sound that pierced through me, and with a flick of my wrist, I unleashed whatever magic the locket contained. Light erupted from it, bright and unwavering, cutting through the grip of the shadows. The moment was electric, every second stretching as the shadows began to fray. It felt as though I was reclaiming not just Madeline, but also a part of myself I had suppressed. And then, amidst the cracking darkness, I saw them, a path illuminated through the chaos. But just as quickly as the light emerged, the shadows howled in protest. They surged forward, angry and desperate to snuff us out. Panic jolted through my body. "Run!" the boy shouted, grabbing my arm. We had only moments to escape as the shadows reacted violently, swirling and collapsing like a collapsing storm. With Madeline still grasping my hand, I pulled her along, ready to fight for her freedom as we dashed toward the opening. That's when I noticed a glint in the corner of my eye, a shadow flickering with life, its form morphing and twisting. It was different, and it was watching us. With each step toward the altar, I felt the heat of urgency and chaos. The shadows resisted us, writhing like living entities hell-bent on reclaiming what they considered theirs. "Don't look back," the boy shouted, his voice barely heard above the cacophony. I couldn't help it. My eyes darted back toward the dark torrent, heart racing. I glimpsed a figure, a shadow that seemed to ripple with wrath. My heart sank. It was as if they weren't just protecting the woods. They were vengeful spirits, furious at the trespassers trying to threaten their domain. "Keep going," Madeline urged, with a voice that steadied me, pulling my focus back as we pushed toward the opening. The altar lay ahead, faintly illuminated, as if it too had awakened with our presence. We crossed the threshold of darkness that separated us from the altar, light flooding over us and giving me a jolt of hope. The boy got there first, and I quickly followed, grasping the lockets tightly in my hand, feeling their power connect us to each other and call us to action. "Put the lockets down," he insisted, his voice filled with a mixture of fear and determination. I dropped them onto the stone altar, each thud ringing out like a declaration. The shadows twisted violently at the edges of our light, their whispers growing louder, taunting, threatening. It was now or never. "Madeline, join us. We have to focus on breaking the hold," I shouted, looking at her through the chaos of tumbling shadows. She stepped closer to the altar, a flicker of recognition flashing in her eyes. With a deep breath, she raised her hands and pressed them against the cool stone. The moment she did, the altar began to glow, a soft luminescence pulsing in rhythm with our heartbeats. The boy and I instinctively followed her lead, placing our hands on the altar. We focused on a singular thought: freedom for Madeline. A wave of warmth washed over me as the lockets felt alive beneath our palms. Suddenly, an ear-splitting howl erupted, and the shadows surged forward, clawing at the very fabric of our sanctuary. "We have to stay strong," the boy shouted, gauging the increasing pressure and darkness threatening to envelop us. "Focus on your truth," I echoed, my voice rising amidst the echoing shrieks. I felt my heart synchronize with Madeline's urgent breaths. "We will not let you take her." As if fueled by our shared conviction, light erupted from the lockets, illuminating the entire clearing. I could see the dark shadows breaking apart, swirling and twisting like a storm unraveling. With every word, the shadows weakened, consumed by the light radiating from the altar. I felt the power build, flowing through all of us. But in the corners of my vision, I still saw that singular shadow, watching, lurking, hungry for retribution. "Now!" Madeline shouted, and we leaned into the light with all we had. The locket's glow intensified, pushing back against the darkness, forcing the shadows to retreat. I felt bones rattle and winds howl as a figure broke through the tortured darkness, reaching for the light. A young girl whose laughter danced through the chaos confirmed it was Madeline. Before I could fully grasp my victory, a sudden darkness rushed towards us like a tidal wave. I tried to scream, but the shadows surrounded us, closing in. The weight of fear wrapped around me, tugging insistently. "Hold on," the boy cried, squeezing my hand tightly, unyielding against the pull of dread. Madeline squeezed my other hand with all her strength, and I focused on the connection between us, realizing what she meant by remembering our strength. "Remember who you are," I yelled, my voice rising above the shrieks. I recalled the moments that led me here, the times I doubted my truth, the moments I let fear rule me. I pushed into that tension, holding it firm as the shadows howled around us. We are not lost. With the last ounce of energy, we locked eyes, a silent agreement passing between us, and together we shouted, "Be free!" And with that, the shadows recoiled as the ground trembled beneath us. Light surged forward, bursting from the altar, illuminating the darkness like a sunrise. The shadows shrieked and began to dissolve, revealing the girl at the heart of their chaos. Then, everything exploded into blinding light, and I felt the earth tremble. When the brightness finally receded, I found myself standing on the edge of the park, the trees normal and the air fresh, as if the transformation, darkness that had once swallowed it, was just a bad dream.
I blinked, confusion overtaking me. Everything felt unnaturally calm, the whispers now silent. Madeline was gone. I looked around, frantic. Had it been real? Had I changed? But all that remained were the 2 lockets clutched in my hands, their shimmer now dimmed but warm against my skin. The boy stood beside me, looking as bewildered as I felt. "Did we—" "I don't know," I replied softly, uncertainty settling in. "What happened to Madeline?" He shook his head, a vague expression crossing his features. "I don't know if we saved her, or if she's part of the woods now." The shadows lingered on the edge of my thoughts, swirling ambiguously. Had we escaped? Had we done enough? My heart raced at those questions, the uncertainty sinking deep into my gut. "I guess we might never know," I said softly, looking into the depths of the park. But in that moment, a flicker of relief brushed against my heart. Maybe we weren't finished after all. I walked away from the park, clutching the lockets, holding on to the connection we had forged, whispering a vow never to forget that between light and darkness, something truly remarkable had emerged, leaving me haunted yet alive, with tales untold still waiting for me.